The 49ers have just beaten the Dallas Cowboys 30-24 on Sunday Night Football. Catch us right after this quick break as we break it all down for you. So the 49ers have finally got to 500 by beating the Dallas Cowboys 30-24 on Sunday Night Football and National Tight Ends Day. And talk about a big day for tight ends. All tight ends combined set the record for most catches and yards for tight ends in any week in NFL history. Coincidence? I think not. But out of those tight ends, George Kittle had a game. In fact, when you break it down, George Kittle had 6 catches for 128 yards and a touchdown. And not just that, he got into the 500 club for the 49ers and joining the company of Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, Roger Craig, and Dwight Clark. Talk about great company. And what a night to do that for George Kittle. And the 49ers needed every bit of George Kittle to win this game. Grant, mind you, they won the game. They need to learn how to win these ugly games. But the game should not have been this close, even from the start. The 49ers played atrocious during the first half, only scoring 6 points. Yes, they held the Cowboys to 10. They came out into the third quarter and just dominated. There were 21 unanswered points. You thought, you know what, maybe you could put the backups in. But lo and behold, like Kyle Shanahan, tried and true, allowed the Cowboys to crawl back into the game. Multiple factors: horrible game planning by Nick Sorensen, horrible offensive play calling to allow the time to be, not chunks to be taken off of the game, but little bits and pieces to give the Cowboys the time that they needed to get back into the game. But we'll get to that. First off, let's talk about the defense and who rose to the occasion. How about 2 picks from the secondary? Deommodore Lenoir and Jair Brown both picking off Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott was picked off twice because Dak's going to Dak. But Deommodore Lenoir and Jair Brown both showed out. Also, Malik Mustafa played great today as well. You look at just the rookie class, or the first and second year players. Ricky Pearsall had a phenomenal game. This is only his second game as a rookie, because everybody knows he's healing from a gunshot wound. But man, did he show out tonight. Ricky Pearsall had, 1 carry for 39 yards, but he also had 4 catches for 38 yards, so he was definitely involved in the game plan, and he's going to need to be. With Brandon Ayuk out for the year with an ACL injury, Ricky Pearsall is going to have to contribute sooner rather than later, which is good for the 49ers for years to come, because they have Brandon Ayuk locked up. They're going to need Ricky Pearsall to get up to speed. That way, instead of needing the second year to ramp up, he's ramping up now and contributing now. Also, Isaac Guerendo, Jordan Mason got hurt, and hopefully that shoulder injury isn't too severe and he can come back. But Isaac Guerendo is showing to be a great change of pace, showing that 4-3 speed while doing those end zone around plays and finally hitting the right holes. One of the big things with Isaac Guerendo is, yes, he's got the speed, he can hit the hole hard, but he doesn't always hit the right hole. And with Kyle Shanahan's run scheme, you need to know which holes to get, and a lot of it comes down to patience. And if you have 4-3 speed, you don't always have the patience. You're relying on your speed. But Kyle Shanahan's whole zone running scheme is based on patience, waiting for the hole to run, or anticipating that the hole is going to open up here. Guerendo, just throughout his college career, has been used to just running and outrunning everybody else. That doesn't work in the NFL. Once you get to open space, yes, you can rely on that speed, but you also need to wait for the hole to show up and trust that it's going to be there and that Kyle Shanahan's going to set you up in the right spots. We're slowly starting to see him earn that trust and trust what his linemen are going to open up those holes, and they're there. So Jordan Mason hopefully comes back. But look, the 49ers are going into a bye week. They're going to have 2 weeks to get healthy, because we saw Deebo Samuel hurt his ribs, and so we don't know the extent of that injury. He was questionable to come back. Thank the Lord that they didn't need him. They may have toward the end, but they're going to have 2 weeks to get healthier. Hopefully Christian McCaffrey comes back. But I think with the showing of Isaac Guerendo and Jordan Mason, this should show Kyle that you don't need to give Christian McCaffrey 30 carries a game. In fact, let's slowly ramp him up, lean on Isaac Guerendo, lean on Jordan Mason, and let's go ahead and maybe keep McCaffrey on a pitch count. So those are the things that you need to do. Few other things to talk about. Special teams. There were parts during the game where like, okay, they've learned from their ways. And then all of a sudden, there's a kickoff that's out of bounds that gives the Cowboys life at the 40-yard line. Now, granted, they didn't give up a huge return, which is news. But again, kicking off, that was another issue. It's always a show when it comes to the 49ers special teams. It's one of those things where it's like, whatever happens, they just can't seem to figure it out. And so hopefully with 2 weeks off, they can figure out shoring it up. Again, no touchdowns on special teams, but Mitch Wisnowski, absolutely horrendous. And he gets paid a lot of money. And what are you paying him? Just to hold the ball for long snapping? Because he's definitely not getting the job done when it comes to changing the possession, that line of scrimmage, because the whole job for a punter is to change field position. If you're within your own 20, you want to kick it as far out, not out kick your coverage, but at least give your team a chance to get the defense in a decent position, not having them with their backs up against the wall. Mitch Wisnowski's been averaging under 40 yards per punt, which is absolutely atrocious. So something needs to happen there. I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers start auditioning punters during the bye week. We'll have to see there. One of the other things that we want to talk about is Nick Sorensen. There were parts of the game where it seems like he was showing out. You had picks by Deommodore Lenoir. You had Fred Warner all over the field. You had Nick Bosa doing what he does. But for whatever reason, the Cowboys were able to come back into the game. CeeDee Lamb had 2 uncontested touchdowns, and that should be your entire game plan. We cannot allow CeeDee Lamb to beat us in this game. Anybody else can beat us. Ferguson from the Cowboys, the tight end, can beat us. Maybe even Turbin can beat us. But CeeDee Lamb cannot beat us. And for whatever reason, twice he was open in the end zone uncontested. And so that falls on Nick Sorensen. Like, how are you allowing this to be schemed? Yes, on the second one, second touchdown to CeeDee Lamb, it looked like a pick play. But still, is there a reason that is one-on-one for CeeDee Lamb when you should have maybe one-on-one press coverage and over-the-top help? That would help prevent that from happening. On the other crosser in the end zone, it looked like they were playing zone on one side, man on the other, and just a huge blown coverage. That all falls on Nick Sorensen. You need to keep track of 88. Whoever the other opposite team's number one target is, that is your job to take out of the game, and the 49ers did not do that. And because they didn't do that, it allowed the Cowboys to claw back into this game. Now, luckily, the 49ers had enough going on their side. They were able to their defense, we've got to give credit where credit is due. The 49ers defense stopped the Cowboys on 4 plays, 4 downs, turnover. They didn't get a first down on that 3-minute mark when they got the ball back. They had a chance to come back and win the game, but instead the defense showed up, potentially saving Kyle Shanahan's job, because who knows what would happen if they were 3-5 going into the bye week. Maybe, who knows, maybe Jed York saying, you know what, I paid out all of this money during the offseason. Maybe it's time to change some leadership. But the 49ers go in 4-4. We know typically the second half of the season is when they blossom. So we'll see if that continues. Hopefully they come back healthy. Deebo Samuel had his ribs hurt. Maybe he comes back healthy. You have Christian McCaffrey. You have potentially Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. You need to start getting healthy at your other positions because they are pretty beat up, and who knows what's going to happen. I anticipate a few things are going to happen. 1, I think they're going to make a move for a defensive lineman. 2, I think there's not going to be a sexy pick at the wide receiver position, but I do think they're going to add some depth. Maybe a familiar face like a Kendrick Bourne's going to be coming back, or maybe Mike Williams from the Jets. We'll see what happens, but I think there's going to be minimally 2 moves that happen during this bye week. Again, one for a defensive tackle because they are pretty thin. We saw Leonard Floyd hobbling during the game because his leg got rolled up, but I think you need to shore up that run defense. It looked like at the beginning of the day they were going to allow Zeke to run all over them and Dalvin Cook, and then finally they were able to kind of get that box taken care of. But you need to find somebody else. Maybe bringing back DeForest Buckner. There were rumors of that today. Who knows what's going to happen? But the 49ers need to get that spark. Maybe Christian McCaffrey is that spark, but it'd be nice to add an additional spark on the defensive side as well, and even to the wide receiver room. Because Ricky Pearsall, Chris Conley, and Deebo Samuel, yes, you have Juwan Jennings. Hopefully he heals up as well during that bye week. You don't really have somebody who separates. Maybe Ricky Pearsall is that guy. Chris Conley can show flashes here and there, but he is definitely a veteran receiver. Without Brandon Ayuk, you need to figure out how are we going to get people open when it comes to one-on-one press man coverage. Because Deebo Samuel, that's not where he thrives. You get him the ball out in the open, get him on a screen, he's going to do what he does. But you also need somebody to stretch and open up those underneath spots. So that's my anticipation. Good win, even though it was an ugly win. It shouldn't have been that close, but they took care of business going into the bye week, 4-4, tied with the rest of the NFC West, outside of the Rams, who had a bye week and are 3-4. But every other team is 4-4. The 49ers can take care of business. Honestly, for them, they need to focus on taking care of the NFC West. Forget about the 1 seed. Forget about the 2 seed. You take care of the NFC West. You get into the playoffs any way that you can, because that's an entirely new season. It doesn't matter what seed you're in. If you make the dance, the playoffs, then anything can happen there. Your job is to keep things together, start hitting stride at the right time. Because everybody knows when it's the playoffs, it's who has the momentum. It doesn't matter what you did in the regular season if you're going to lose in the first round. The 49ers need to get that momentum so when it comes to playoff time, they're firing on all cylinders and doing what they need to do. So great win, 49ers. Even though it was ugly, you figured out how to win these ugly games. You improved your red zone efficiency when it came to scoring touchdowns, not just field goals in the red zone. Kudos to you there, but we also need to learn how to lock up these games and not keep the other teams around. You cannot play down to your opponent. You need to play to win, not play to not lose. And that's all we have today on today's episode of Ninerology. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.